as this representative sits here in this body representing a regime that has killed tens of thousands of its own people and imprisoned many more.
You will not believe what just happened at the United Nations Security Council. One diplomat, one moment, one word, and the entire chamber went silent. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? The representative of Iran just told the United States to mind its manners at the highest diplomatic body on earth. And the United States representative, he couldn't help himself. He had to fire back. We're going to break down exactly what happened here, what it means, and why. Once again, America standing on the world stage is under a microscope. Stay with me. Here's the setup. The UN Security Council was in session, February, end of the month, UK holding the presidency. Tensions between the United States and Iran are nothing new. We're talking about decades of sanctions, proxy conflicts, nuclear negotiations on and off, and an administration, let's be honest, that has consistently chosen confrontation over diplomacy. But something happened in that chamber that cut through all the geopolitical noise. Something raw, something almost embarrassing to watch, depending on which side you think embarrassed themselves. Because here's the thing. When Iran's representative stands up at the UN and says, be polite, and the US representative immediately proves that point by going on a tirade, you have to ask who actually won that exchange. Now, I want you to notice a few things here. First, the restraint. Iran's rep had one word. One word. That is a rhetorical masterstroke. By saying less, he said everything. He positioned himself as the calm party, the measured adult in the room. Strategic? Absolutely. Is Iran's government innocent? Absolutely not. We're going to get to that. But in this specific moment, rhetorically, he played it perfectly. Now here's where it gets interesting. You see the irony, right? He literally said, I'm not going to dignify this, and then dignified it with a full emotional response. Now look, the content of what he said, it's not wrong. Iran's government has a brutal human rights record. The protests, the crackdowns, the executions, these are documented facts. Reuters, AP, Amnesty International. This is all on record. But here's the problem. Here's what this administration never seems to understand about diplomacy. Being right about your opponent's crimes does not automatically make your conduct beyond reproach. When you show up to the world's diplomatic stage and respond to be polite with a public scolding, you just handed Iran a propaganda win on a silver platter. And they didn't even have to do anything. They said one word. Let me break down the rhetorical strategies at play here, because this is important. Iran's move, classic moral judo. By calling out rudeness with maximum restraint, Iran's reframed the dynamic. Suddenly, tone became the story instead of substance. It's a manipulation tactic, yes, but an effective one. Don't be fooled, this wasn't diplomatic civility. This was strategic messaging designed to make the U.S. look like the aggressor. The U.S. response, emotional, justified, and content, but strategically disastrous. The moment you take the bait, you lose the frame. Every news outlet in the world is now running clips, not of Iran's human rights record. They're running the clip of America's representative visibly agitated at the UN. That's the image. That's what gets shared on social media. That's what ends up in adversary state media. And let's zoom out. Because this moment at the UN doesn't exist in a vacuum. We are in a moment of genuine global instability. Iran's nuclear program is advancing. Tensions in the Middle East are not cooling down. The administration's approach to Iran has swung wildly, maximum pressure, then potential back-channel talks, then more pressure, with no coherent strategy that our allies can rely on. Meanwhile, our credibility at the United Nations, the institution that America helped build after World War II, is eroding. And it's not because our adversaries are winning the argument. It's because we keep making their argument for them with these moments. Think about it. When the representative of Iran can stand up in the Security Council and call out American rudeness, and the world nods along, something has gone badly wrong with how we're projecting power and values. This isn't about one exchange. This is about a pattern of chest thumping that plays well for a domestic base, but undermines American influence everywhere else. And the people who suffer, it's not the diplomats in that chamber. It's the Iranian people. The very people the US rep invoked, who are caught between a brutal theocratic regime and an American foreign policy that can't seem to decide if it wants regime change, nuclear deals, or just something good for the evening news cycle. I want to be clear about something because this channel doesn't do cheap shots. The US representative was not wrong on the substance. Iran's government has killed protesters, has imprisoned journalists, has executed dissidents. These are facts. Saying them out loud at the UN is not a mistake, it's necessary. But how you say it matters. When you say it matters, letting yourself get baited into an emotional response that hands your opponent a clean soundbite, that's a failure of craft, a failure of discipline. And when we are navigating potential military escalation, when we are trying to hold a coalition together, when we are trying to keep the international community aligned on Iran's nuclear program, we need representatives who can absorb a cheap shot and respond with precision, not passion. Look, here's why I'm telling you all of this. Because this stuff matters. These moments at the UN aren't just diplomatic theater, they shape alliances. They shape how other nations calculate their interests. They shape whether the next vote goes our way or theirs. And they are a direct reflection of the administration making these decisions, staffing these positions, setting the tone from the top. If you're watching this and you're concerned, not just about Iran, not just about this one exchange, but about the direction of American foreign policy, about accountability, about whether the people making these decisions are actually serving American interests or their own, then you need to stay informed, stay engaged, and make your voice heard. Share this video. Talk to people in your community. Show up when it counts. Because the decisions being made right now will have consequences we'll be living with for years. If you're new here, welcome. This channel covers U.S. politics, foreign policy, accountability, and democracy with the urgency these topics demand. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. We are on this every single day, and if you want deeper dives, longer analysis, and early access to our breakdowns, check out our Substack. Link is in the description. One word. That's all it took to create an international moment. The question is, are we paying attention to what that moment is actually telling us? I'm telling you, we should be.